Is your roof rack looking rough? Today in the garage, we'll show you how to restore it step by step. Because it was difficult to get an idea of where all the hardware was located on the car, we're going to start with an overhead look of the roof rack. There are 2 main crossbars and 3 smaller ones. They all have knobs that can be loosened and allow you to slide the crossbar forward and back. Depending on where they're situated, you may need to move them in order to expose the hardware. There will be 10 T25 Torx head bolts located here. With those removed, the rack can be pried from the roof of the car and moved to an area where it's easier to work with. For this project, we're going to completely disassemble this roof rack. To do that, we're going to pull the 4 end caps off the rails. With the T25s removed, they pull right out. In order to remove the crossbars, we'll need to loosen all the knobs. The 2 larger bars you will need to slide off. The 3 smaller bars can either be slid off like the larger ones, or you can unscrew the knob all the way and lift them straight off the rails. This will leave all the mounting plates and plastic retainers in the rail, but I would recommend you go ahead and do this rather than slide the smaller crossbars off, since we'll need to disassemble them later on to restore the plastic. And we're going to reuse all this hardware, so you're going to want to keep all these plates and retainers in a safe spot so when it comes time to reassemble, we'll have everything ready to go. The knobs for the 2 larger crossbars actually just slip out of place once you have it halfway out of the rail. You don't have to unscrew them, and if you flip the 2 larger crossbars over, you'll see that the 2 end caps for these are held in by 2 T15 screws. And by removing those, you should be able to pull the end cap right off the crossbar. The top of the larger crossbar will have a rubber molding. With those end caps off, you should be able to slide it out, but if they're a little stubborn like you see on this next piece, all you need to do is use a pick or a plastic tool and run it along the edge to separate the dirt and grime on that seal. Now moving over to the rail that these crossbars slide into, when you flip them over, there's actually a plastic trim that rides along the bottom. When they installed these roof racks originally, they used a silicone to prevent water infiltration into the holes for the hardware. The squeeze out of that silicone has pushed out around the base of the head of that T25 and dried onto the bottom of the rail. That dried up silicone is preventing the plastic trim from sliding out. If you're having some trouble here, you'll need to peel off the excess silicone. Once off, you should be able to get the trim out of the groove it rides in. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and remove all the knobs and set them aside. I'm going to take this hardware actually and put it to a magnetic tray so it doesn't wander away. Moving back to the smaller crossbars, the end caps are held in with a single JIS screw on each side. If you have a Phillips, it may be fine, but depending on where your car has lived the last couple of decades, if your hardware started to rust or the metal soften, a Phillips screwdriver may strip out your hardware. A JIS screwdriver will not. Now on my rack there's a lot of paint chipped off and a lot of exposed metal. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the 150 grit sandpaper. My goal is to feather out the areas where there is still paint so there's a smooth transition between paint and metal. If you were to run your finger from one to the other, it should feel completely smooth. I'm also going to go ahead and rough up the metal in a few areas where the paint is still intact so that it'll give the new paint a better surface to adhere to. On the bottom of these smaller crossbars there's a rubber molding. It just snaps in so you can grab one end and pull it straight out. It'll pull away from the crossbar. And with that rubber molding removed, that's effectively the last of the disassembly we have to do for the roof rack. At this point, we don't really have any danger of damaging anything as we sand. And there's going to be quite a bit of sanding if your roof rack looks anything like mine. If your roof rack is in better shape, you don't have to go all the way down to bare metal. You really just need to feather the edges of any paint chips and rough up the surface of the paint. You may notice on the top of this larger crossbar, I'm not actually sanding inside the groove. This area will be covered by the rubber molding we removed earlier and protected from any of the elements. This is likely why it's the only part of the roof rack that's still the original factory black. And moving on to the rails, we're going to do the same thing. Rough up the surface and feather in all the hard edges where there's still some paint left. Now for this project, I'm going with the textured spray-on bed liner product that comes in a rattle can. If for your own rack you're planning on doing a gloss or a matte finish without any texture, you may want to go ahead and go back at this point, wipe down your bars, and do some finish sanding with a 180 or a 220 grit sandpaper. Because I will only need the one pass with the sandpaper, I'm going to get a cloth with some isopropyl alcohol and thoroughly wipe down all the pieces that will be painted. The cleaner you get them, the smoother and more even the paint will be. And here I am coming back to address that load rating sticker. It's a little out of frame, but I'm just using a razor blade to scrape the sticker off. And then I'm going to come back with my 150 grit sandpaper and feather out the edges of the paint. And that paint was actually still preserved from the sticker. We're going to wipe it down one more time and make sure all that sanding dust is off, and then we can set our rails and crossbars aside and look at the plastic bits. Now on these plastics I use a very diluted simple green solution, but really any degreaser would probably work just the same. I'm just making sure to get all these pieces wiped down so that there's no wax or any other chemistry on the plastic. The same thing with the knobs and the end caps for the crossbars. You can also use isopropyl alcohol for this, but it tends to strip your plastics and leave them gray. Today I'm using Plastic Restore from Car Guys, and for three main reasons. 1, the product doesn't leave an oily gloss finish on the plastic. 2, I have already had it on the shelf because it's what I use on all my car interiors. And finally, and most importantly, I like the smell. It's probably super toxic to be breathing, but if I could get it as a car air freshener, I would. My rubber trim was surprisingly still very pliable, but if yours is looking old and stiff, there's a product called AT205 made by ATP Automotive, and that works really well on rubber and seals. Plastic restorers are designed to bring faded, sun-worn exterior plastics back to life by replenishing the oils and pigments that have broken down over time. UV rays, heat, harsh weather slowly dries out the plastic trim, leaving it chalky and gray. A good restorer soaks into the surface, darkens the colors, and adds a protective layer that helps repel water and dirt, making the trim look closer to the factory finish. That said, not all restorers are created equal. Some are water-based and provide a more natural satin look, but may need to be reapplied more often. Others are silicone or oil-based and leave a glossier finish that can last longer, but sometimes attracts dust and leaves streaks if applied too heavily. The type of product you choose depends on whether you prefer the subtle OEM look or a bold, shiny finish. I'm not affiliated with any of these products, but I'll leave links to all of them in the description. When applying a plastic restorer, surface prep is key. Always clean the trim thoroughly so dirt and old residues don't get sealed in. Apply evenly with a microfiber or foam applicator, and avoid oversaturating the areas near paint, glass, or fabric if they're still attached. Some of these products can stain. Finally, keep in mind that restorers are made more of as a cosmetic fix than a permanent repair. Regular maintenance and reapplication will be needed to keep the exterior plastics looking their best no matter what option you choose. Now with the last of the end caps all cleaned up, we can put down a sheet of plastic and start spraying our pieces. Full disclosure, my original intention was to do gloss black on the rack, but on an unrelated trip to the auto parts store, I found a can of Rust-Oleum spray-on bed liner with a top that was slightly crushed and on clearance for 99 cents. I was able to put a new nozzle on it and get my spray handle to attach to the collar, so now we're off to the races. The video is being sped up, but the reality is I'm staying about a foot away as I paint, and I'm doing a lot of light coats back and forth instead of one heavy coat right off the bat. And carefully turning them around, I do the same on the other side. Now keep in mind, several of these pieces have moldings or plastic trim that cover up parts of the rack or face the roof of the car, so there's not a whole lot of point in painting these areas or the underside of the smaller crossbars and rails. Now, spray-on bed liner in a rattle can is a budget-friendly way to give your vehicle a rugged, textured look, while also adding some protection. It's easy to apply, and unless you buy a broken can like I did, it doesn't require any special tools. That said, there are some trade-offs. Aerosol bed liner isn't as durable as a professional spray-on coating. It can chip, and if applied unevenly, it may leave streaks or blotches, but with proper prep, it can hide scuffs and scratches while giving you a uniform finish. For the two larger crossbars, the rubber molding can be started from either end and will just slide in. Then if you flip them upside down, the end caps will slot into each side. These are held in with two T15 screws, and it's going to be hard to get this wrong because they'll only fit into the side that they're intended to go to. And once you have the first one done, the second will be exactly the same. There's no difference between either bar or the corresponding end caps, so as long as the end caps are on the right side, it will work on either bar. Now let's reassemble the smaller crossbars. We're going to take that rubber molding, center it, and just apply a little pressure and it'll start snapping into place. And like the previous crossbar, it's hard to get this wrong because they're all exactly the same. The end cap is attached with a single screw, that's JIS. If your previous hardware was pretty far gone or you stripped it getting them out, this would be a good time to replace it with new screws. For the rails, the plastic trim can be inserted into the grooves on either end of the rail, and they'll just slide in. If you have any excess silicone, now's a good time to make sure that you don't leave any bits hanging on before we reinstall. The end caps just sort of rock into place. I made the mistake of putting all the end caps on, but we really only need two, so we can slide our crossbars on. Now this is actually much easier on the car, but for the sake of the video, we'll try and do it on the table. It's a little obscured by the crossbar itself, but what's happening is I'm getting the crossbar slid on halfway, and then I'm going to come back with the knobs for the crossbar, slot those into the rail, and then push it the rest of the way forward. And in a similar vein for the smaller crossbars, I'm going to put the metal plate and the plastic retaining clip onto the rail first, and that'll allow me to sit the crossbar on top and screw the knob into place. And just rinse and repeat the same procedure 2 more times. It's probably important to note that if you're doing this on a flat surface, it's not going to mirror the angle that the rails sit on when they're on the car. The roof is curved, so these rails actually sit at an angle. You may have some trouble screwing the knobs for the smaller crossbars in flat, but if you just grab the rail and tip the inside up a little, it'll provide the angle you need to get those knobs screwed in. And let's jump ahead to where we have it all assembled and those 2 end caps are back on. And I'm just going to hand tighten all these so that the roof rack is somewhat sturdy, but the mounting holes for those T25s are exposed so that when we put it back on the car, it'll install quickly. Once the T25s are in, we will need to readjust the positioning on all the crossbars. And we'll jump ahead one more time to when we have the roof rack on top of the car. There's one small but important step we still need to do, which is going to be to add some silicone to each hole. I would recommend you go ahead and thread in each corner dry just so the rack doesn't move around on you when you're installing. Once the 4 corners are in, we can turn our attention to the small crossbars. And just like the 4 corners, we're going to add a little dab of silicone and hand tighten each T25 back in. Once it's secure, just move the small crossbar forward to cover up the T25 hardware. And that's it, the roof rack is defeated. If you've made it this far, thanks for sticking around. If this video helped you out, give it a like and consider subscribing. If you have your own tips and tricks, leave them down in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time in the garage.